Hi. Hey, Paul is here. Paul says he's here, so he's here. Roger's in cars. Yeah. Bill says energize, so I guess we oughta. John McKee with the roll call, everybody. John with the roll call. He's tops because, he's calling the roll. Brian, Hank, Webb, Bill, Derek, Donna, Andrew, Paul, Roger, other Bill, not to be confused with Bill. Eugene. Hey, Nabil's here. And Gary. GT Mako is Gary. I will forget that in the next 10 seconds. How's everybody doing? Happy Friday, right? Man, did I treat it like a Saturday? Whoa, sorry about that. Yeah, that's okay, because that part is not recorded yet. I'm going to go ahead and hit the record now, and then we can do a show. What do you say? All right, I have now hit record. So it's all good. Deborah's here. Hey, Deborah, you missed roll call, but that's okay, because we haven't started yet, so... I thought about joking, try to be here on time, but I was 2 minutes late earlier this week, so I'm not going to give you grief, Deborah, nor anybody else. All you people who aren't here yet, it's okay. All right, let's do a show. Happiness is an electric puppy. It is Friday, the 5th of February, 2021, and this is macOS Can Live. Good Friday afternoon or evening, everybody, or Saturday morning. I don't know where you are. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know when you're listening to this. Hey, maybe it's a Tuesday, and I hope it's a good one. Hi, I'm Ken Ray. Thank you very much for joining us for macOS Ken Live. This thing that we do live Monday through Friday, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern. That is in the afternoon or evening because, oh, sure, I'm up at 3:30 in the morning, but not doing this. Let's see, second half of the show today, boy, oh boy, the past day and a half, 2 days, we've devoted to the car rumors, the rumors about Apple Car and Kia and all that stuff. There is a reason that we don't concentrate on rumor, and we are being taught this reason huge this week. We'll talk about that in the second half of the show, plus do a tiny bit of feedback. First half of the show, though, what could I say? It's gone to the dogs. Ha. Ha, or gone to the dog specifically. I think it seemed obvious when I started macOS Ken 15 years ago. It was obvious that it was all leading to talking about a new Snoopy series. It's kind of crazy. The new Snoopy series, The Snoopy Show, premiered on Apple TV Plus today. And yeah, that's what we're talking about. That's part of what we're talking about. It's not really what we're talking about, but it is where we're going to start. Because I got up and, I was listening to some other show. And then I started checking Apple News. And it turns out that Apple has turned over the landing page of apple.com to promotion for the Snoopy Show. Shouldn't be surprising. Also, I should just go to the Apple site the first thing every day. Because now I got to say, I read it in Apple Insider, which is fine. That's good enough as place as any, except really I should have seen it first. But I didn't. Apple Insider saw it and told me about it. So they have that show, which we talked about here. I want to say it was fairly early in macOS Ken Live that they announced that they were making a Snoopy series. Because, of course, Apple had already done, I think it was Peanuts in Space and Snoopy in Space. They won an award for one of those. I think it was Snoopy in Space. I'm not sure. They also secured the rights to all of the holiday specials, like Be My Valentine, Charlie Brown, which I think is the one about the little red-haired girl, is up on Apple TV Plus now. They put Happy Thanksgiving or a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, it's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown and the Charlie Brown Christmas up on Apple TV Plus as well, which of course caused a lot of people to be really upset because they thought they would never be able to watch them. And you can go back through the holidays if you want to see how that whole thing went. It was sometime maybe in October, September or October of 2020, which was only 8 years ago. that they announced that they were going to be making a new Snoopy series, and today is the day that it hits. And honestly, there's so much stuff happening on Apple TV Plus. You'll forgive me for forgetting, but I did that it was coming out today. Apple's not going to let you forget though, because if you go to apple.com, which I guess we all should every day, Snoopy's all over the thing. Snoopy and Woodstock. Top of the page shows a banner for the show plus an animated dancing Snoopy. Then, as you scroll down to the different products that normally feature on the front page, they got Snoopy all over them. Like there are all the iPhone 12s right there, except Snoopy is sitting atop the iPhone 12 flying like he does when he is the World War One ace, like he does on top of his doghouse. Go further down a bit, the iPad Air actually is got Woodstock and a bunch of those little tiny birds that Woodstock is carrying an iPad Air, apparently showing how light it is and airy, I suppose. HomePod's got a little dancing Snoopy next to it and a dancing Woodstock and a bunch of little animated musical notes. And then finally, of course, there's the ad for Apple TV that's always at the bottom, except on the screen. Not Servant, not upcoming shots from Cherry. It's Snoopy. He's underwater. He's like, swimming around and stuff. Now, obviously, since I forgot this was coming, I haven't watched much of it yet. I watched 2/3 of the first episode, but that's kind of like watching 4 episodes or 3 episodes because at least the first episode doesn't have a plot. It's not like the movies, which I was going to start naming, but that's embarrassing. I'll do it. Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, Bon Voyage, Charlie Brown, Snoopy Come Home. Doesn't have a plot like that. Doesn't have a plot like all the specials I mentioned earlier. It's Flag Day, Charlie Brown, and Happy St. Patrick's Day, Charlie Brown. Those aren't really. Doesn't have a plot like that. Rather, it's got a bunch of little stories, little segments, which it makes sense because you're programming for kids, right? And not to sound all old man, but kids these days, I don't know that they're sitting and watching 30-minute shows. Although, yeah, wolf walkers and things like that. I mean, there are longer, whatever. Maybe they did it because they couldn't think of a plot. Maybe the next one's going to have a plot. I don't know. These were little vignettes, basically. So the first one is kind of an origin story. Actually, the first two. The first 5 minutes or so is how Snoopy became Charlie Brown's dog. The second 5 minutes or so is how Woodstock became Snoopy's best friend. It's a great story, actually. It was pretty much Woodstock wanted to be Snoopy's friend. Just that simple. And then it's Charlie Brown trying to figure out what makes him smile. Spoiler alert, it's going to be Snoopy. It's right in the title. So, yeah, it's getting fairly well reviewed, I guess. Like I say, I kind of enjoyed it. I mean, what I liked about it is it wasn't offensive. You know how if there's something that you like when you're a kid, they reboot the thing and all of a sudden, it stinks because they're trying to appeal to a new generation. And so all the stuff you liked about it is gone, but then now it's just like every other cartoon. It's weird to me actually because he's still the World War One flying ace in this. Now, Snoopy is 50 years old, 50 something years old, right? Maybe even a little bit older than that. So at the time that they introduced the idea of the World War One flying ace, World War One was only 50 years ago. It's over 100 years ago now, and yet he's still a World War One flying ace. But here's the thing: it's a dog flying a plane. Well, it's a dog flying a doghouse that he's pretending is a plane, and so it's fine. Kids don't have to know anything about World War One to hey, look, it's a dog flying a plane. I didn't know anything about World War One when they were, pushing it to me when I was 8. Pushing it to me, I'm sorry, when I was thoroughly enjoying Snoopy and Peanuts when I was 8. Talk about him being in the French Foreign Legion. Is that still a thing? Do any kids know about that? But it doesn't matter because you're watching the cartoon and it's oh, look, he's running around, I guess, being French foreign. It's weird because they haven't really retooled it that much. Nobody, at least in the first, episode, like I say, I haven't watched the whole thing, but nobody's walking around with cell phones. Nobody's walking around with iPads. The classroom looks like the classroom that it's always looked like. They're just making more. They're not remaking, they're not rebooting, they're just making more of it, which, it's worked for 50 some odd years. So, okay. I'll be curious to see what they say about viewership if they ever do. Carlton Max says the Snoopy Show will charm children and de-stress adults. Okay, yes, that happened to me for 10 minutes. And Apple Insider says Apple TV Plus, the Snoopy Show brings back the peanuts of the past. That's what I was saying. Nobody's texting. It's just Charlie Brown and Lucy and, Pigpen and all the rest of them. I'm not going to sit here and name them all. I'll bet I could. I don't think I knew how much I actually knew about peanuts until we started talking about it. So I joked earlier that it seemed obvious when macOS 10 started in 2006 that we would eventually be talking about a Peanuts series being produced by Apple. What I was trying to think about is, because every now and then I get a little weirded out by how much stuff, well, sometimes I get weirded out by how much stuff I should know, and then sometimes I get weirded out by how much stuff I'm going to have to know at some point. Like when I started macOS 10 in 2006, what do I care about cars? I think there had occasionally been talk. There would be talk that one day Apple might make an inboard infotainment system for a car, maybe, which of course they've done with CarPlay. I mean, that's de rigueur now. I don't have it. If I were buying a stereo today, it would definitely have it. Or if I were buying a car today, it would definitely have it. I mean, I don't have it because I don't have a car, of my own. But I mean, there was nobody I remember in 2005, I think a couple of friends saying, boy, it'd be neat if they made a car. That was it. Nobody thought they were actually going to make a car. And now I know the name of the guy who works for Morgan Stanley, who covers cars, because now he's talking about Apple, which means I'm going to be talking about it as well, which is crazy. I went through a list of things really quickly. Do these things make sense? If you had said 15 years ago, does it make sense to you that Apple is going to do this? Well, I got a few right here. Apple Pay or Apple Card, I'm going to say pass. I think we had PayPal at that point. And, the idea that you would be able to shoot money from your phone to somebody else's phone, I honestly don't remember if that was already a thing in Japan and China. I don't remember if that was a thing in Europe at that point. I mean, certainly we had the idea of online payment systems. Was there any reason to think that Apple would get into it? No, but I mean, there was no reason to think that we wouldn't be going to the bank and taking money out of the ATM in 2002, 2003. So I kind of want to say pass on the payment thing. I also kind of want to say pass on the App Store, because 15 years ago, we didn't have an iPhone. We had the Mac. We had, I still remember going to the Apple Store and looking at the wall of software. I remember going to, not Office Max, what was it, CompUSA, and looking at the rows and rows and rows of software. Would the App Store have made sense? I don't know. I kind of want to say pass on that as well. It would be easy to sit here now and say, oh, of course, that would make sense. I'm trying to remember if it was actually stuff that we thought about or talked about, like music. I remember in 2005 talking with Scott Shepard at Inside Mac about, I don't understand why Apple is not getting into subscription music, but I was a subscription music adherent. I was paying Rhapsody $10 a month. Then I was paying Rhapsody $10 a month in 2005 to be able to have access to all the music in the world, or all the music they had anyway. So yes, music absolutely made sense to me. I've got resounding yes down here on that. Apple getting to the phone. I know I thought so by 2006, because I made a stupid video on YouTube called Where is My iPhone? And there weren't any yet. And I'm not saying I had the whole thing pegged, but yes, that definitely made sense to me. Does iPad make sense? Sure. Yes. I saw 2001: A Space Odyssey. They were walking around with iPads. They were a different form factor and they didn't do quite as much, but they were walking around with iPads, and that was in 1968. Of course, they were fiction, but yes, that was one of those things that if anybody's going to get into tablets, Apple ought to be the one to get into tablets because we had seen tablets before, but they were bulky and clunky and slow. When do we get the iPhone? Got the iPhone in 2007, got the iPad in 2010. 3 years later, especially, yes, it makes sense. As far as form factor, are they going to do a tablet? I don't know that anybody would have absolutely said, yes, they're going to do a tablet, but the second you say they're going to do a tablet, does it make sense? Resounding yes. Apple Watch. This one's kind of fun. Uh, 2006, yes, Apple Watch makes sense. 2010, no, Apple Watch doesn't make sense. I remember when Tim Cook introduced the Apple Watch in, what was it, 2015? Forgive me for not remembering. Was it introduced in 2014, came out in 2015? Or introduced in 2015, came out in 2016? I don't remember off the top of my head. I may be off by a year on those numbers. Might have been a tiny bit earlier than that. But when Apple Watch came out, I was talking to August Trometer, and he was talking about the way that Tim Cook held his hand up in victory, held his fist up in victory because they were introducing this thing, and August wasn't certain that they had actually done anything victorious at that point. Now, August, I believe, is on his third Apple Watch, so, and I don't think you would mind me telling you that. So obviously, he's about it now. The thing is, in 2006, if you had said Apple Watch, it'd be like, oh, that would be interesting and intriguing, and I would love to see that. Not a definite they should, but I'd be curious to see what they did. By 2010, most everybody I knew had stopped wearing a watch because we all had our cell phones, and our cell phones did so much more than that. The one drag is when you were checking the time, people knew because you were looking at your phone. But the watch was not a thing. I mean, I think I probably still had one someplace, but the watch was not a thing that I carried anymore, was not a thing that I wore anymore because it was replaced by the phone. And then Tim Cook comes out and they're like, "Yeah, we're going to make watches make sense again." I wasn't sure. And yet I'm on my second one. So let's do the last one, TV. Did Apple going into TV make sense 15 years ago? Not exactly. I mean, 15 years ago, if somebody said Apple's going to go into TV, would it have made sense? And my answer is not exactly. I mean, they had the video iPod at that point. So the idea of them making their own content wouldn't have been completely insane, but it wouldn't have made sense. And if I'm 100% honest, I don't know if it makes sense now. It's fine. I mean, they can because they've got all the money in the world to do that. I know I've said here before, I was on Chuck Joyner's show when we started to hear the rumor that Apple was going to buy Beats. Or maybe they had already bought Beats. I'm not sure. But I mean, it was within a week of them buying Beats. And there was already starting to be talk that they were going to go into producing their own content at some point, that they were going to go into producing their own video stuff. And I don't know why in our heads, because it's been a few years now, that was tied to the Beats acquisition. And yet, Chuck put the question to us, what do you think of the idea? And I did not say, and I won't pretend like, well, it's obvious they're going to do that. What I said at the time was, why not? Because they've got enough money and they weren't the most valuable company in the world at the time, but they had enough money that they could play with it. And I am a fan of Apple going off and playing. It's better than just giving money back to shareholders, which they're also able to do, good for them. But I like the idea of them, taking their money and playing with it. Because then they give us stuff that we can play with too. And that's not the worst thing in the world. Hey, maybe, goofy glasses could be. Anyway, that's what the Snoopy thing made me think about, which I know is, that's walking down many paths, but I found it fascinating. I'm actually probably going to at least finish the first episode of the Snoopy show. It's not the kind of thing where you think, man, I need to watch them all because I need to know what happens next. Probably Snoopy's going to do something imaginary, and then later he's going to be fed. I mean, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that's the way a lot of those episodes are gonna go. Might I skate? I could see that happening. Probably some dancing. In fact, I believe the one that I'm watching right now is "Happiness is a Dancing Dog," I think is the, little thing. So anyway, whatever. What are we gonna be talking about in 15 more years? That's kinda crazy to think about. I'll go ahead and I know I've planted this flag here and other places as well, Apple in healthcare, and I don't just mean devices, I mean Apple in healthcare in an appreciable way. A trip to the hospital may not be, "Let me see your iPhone." It might be much more integrated, I would think. That's but I don't know if that's actually something that's gonna happen or just what I wanna see, but that's definitely something that I wanna see. Anyway, as always, I would love to hear your thoughts on any of this stuff. Did all this stuff make sense to you? Does the TV thing even make sense to you now? What do you see Apple doing in the next 15 years? I don't mean like, not in the Tony Saganagi, what's the next 5 years like for you? But it's a question I actually put to people on in a few minutes a couple of weeks ago or over the past few weeks. What services do you want to see Apple get into? Is there a place that you see them going that nobody else sees? Let me know. Info at macoscan.com. Info at macoscan.com. You can also leave a topic, comment rather, on this video. I'll check it out and maybe incorporate it in a future show. You never know. I mean, you will know once it happens. If it doesn't happen, though, you never know. Pretty sure that makes sense. Hey, really quickly, I will mention that other show in a few minutes as a show. Kind of started at the wrong time and also named something wrong, but otherwise it's great. I started it about a year ago, a little bit over a year ago now, and it was going to be a companion piece to Mac OS Can, which people listen to in the morning on their drive to work or on their morning commute, which is something we used to do. Anyway, the show's still going. It's about 10 to 15 minutes every day. Me and somebody else talking about technology stuff. Usually, one day a week, people bring me their own story they want to talk about. We talk about some Apple stuff. Friday, we play a fun game called Wheel of Stuff. The show is called In a Few Minutes. You can actually find it at my website, macoscan.com. Go to the part where it says shows, and you can listen to all the shows that I produce there, or just look for the show In a Few Minutes, wherever you get podcasts, or search for Ken Ray, and that'll turn up. That'll turn up a bunch of stuff too. So Thursday on macOS Can, I began the show with some rumors, right? You know what I'm talking about. Some rumors. Some rumors are so big you just can't get away from them. And I think yesterday I mentioned the fact that talk of the Apple car is inescapable, so we couldn't escape talking about it. And we talked about it and we talked about it. And then, yeah, in the past 24 hours, two things have come out to make us all think, oh, I guess maybe that's not going to happen. First, there was a story in Nikkei that came last night, Thursday night, Friday morning. Apple Insider highlighted a story from Nikkei that had some guy or gal saying that everything is still in flux. Honestly, there was so much that wasn't clear about the article. It's kind of hard to know whether it threw cold water on everything we had heard about Hyundai, except for the part where at the very end of it, the guy said, yeah, nobody said anything about America. He didn't say nobody said anything about America. What he said was that Apple is in talks with 6 different companies involved in autos in China. We don't know where it's going to be made. That's not going to necessarily be up to the Korean company, he said, referring, of course, to Hyundai. We are in discussion with Apple about where it's going to be built, said this guy. Now, who is this guy? Who knows? Nikkei said it was a guy somewhere he was an automotive executive someplace in China. That's all we know about that. Nikkei doesn't always have the best track record as far as being correct. they're kinda like to me, they're kinda like the IDC and Gartner numbers. You kinda have to talk about them because people treat them with respect. You kinda have to talk about them because, like E.F. Hutton, who was mentioned in the, chat room yesterday, when Nikkei talks, people listen. And, like a lot of times, people don't go back and say, Nikkei was actually full of beans on that. Turns out they were wrong. Nikkei says something, and all of a sudden things get a little, wibbly wobbly. So the Nikkei story yesterday said that this executive said that they don't know where things are going to be built. So everybody needs to calm down about West Point, Georgia, and the $3.6 billion that Apple is apparently investing in that plant, that Kia plant in West Point, Georgia, because we don't know where it's going to be. And now we get another story. This happened about an hour before now, an hour before I started recording this. This is from Apple Insider, but it's highlighting a Bloomberg report that says talks between Apple and Hyundai and Kia actually stopped a while ago. So while we're getting a story this week that says Apple is about to invest $3.6 billion in a Kia plant in Georgia to start building as many as 100,000 cars by 2024, as many as $400,000 down the road, we're now hearing that we're hearing from Bloomberg that earlier in January, Hyundai and its subsidiary Kia backed away. I'm sorry, that was the statement. This apparently is why talks are on hold, because Hyundai had said, "Yeah, we're building the Apple car," and then they were like, "We're talking to lots of people about possibly building cars." That was the thing that they backed away from. According to Apple Insider, it's not clear if or when the discussions might resume. There are internal disagreements within Hyundai that could derail the plans, with one person saying that there is a dispute about whether Hyundai or Kia will get to produce Apple's autonomous vehicle. How much ink was spilled? How much money was made and lost? All on that rumor that we just couldn't get away from. It's worse than the Apple television. It's worse than Gene Munster's full-on Apple television, because all we had there was, that's a thing Apple's going to do one day. Whatever. Maybe people are looking for good news. Maybe people are looking for any news. Maybe they're bored. Who knows? The three stories that came out this week are so like against each other. Now, the financial analyst talking about it, that part is still interesting to me. The problem that I have is that the rumor gets so prevalent that I find myself like I almost just said, well, it's obvious Apple's going to build a car at some point. No, it's not. It's obvious we're all talking about it. It's obvious that a lot of people expect it. It's obvious that Apple is doing something in cars. Right now, the prevalent story is Apple's going to build their own car. A month ago, we would have just as easily said, or they're going to build, systems for other cars, or maybe they'll partner with somebody. And now we have to like sort of circle back around to that, because everything that we decided over the past week was true, or that somebody else decided was true, and just kept saying it so often and so loud that I will fully confess, I had started to take the Kia thing as read. I had started to take that as, well, that's going to happen. So then what happens next? And I feel bad about that because maybe or not, which is the kind of thing I'm supposed to say, I think. Maybe or not. Instead, I got caught with my hopes up, like I'm getting one. Let's do a little feedback really quickly, and then we'll call it a week. What do you say? On the EVs versus BEVs thing, I love a person in BEVs. Is that right? Samik Chatterjee, I jokingly said I'm mad at him because I had learned a new term when I was talking about all these stories yesterday, because he started talking about the BEV market. So there are three three abbreviations that I've come across: EV, which is electric vehicle, AV, which is autonomous vehicle, and then BEV, which I had to go and look up. It's battery electric vehicle. I said, they're all battery electric vehicles. What's wrong with you? And then Jeremy wrote in to tell me what's wrong with me. All EVs have a battery, he said. You are correct. But some EVs have a different power source than being plugged in to recharge said battery. Hydrogen fuel cell vehicles are EVs and are still being developed. They have the bonus of a quick refill, though the infrastructure isn't fully out for them either. And once we get off oil and gas, who knows what other types of electric power plants people will think to put in cars. I'm hoping for Mr. Fusion garbage fuel. That's a Back to the Future reference. Back to the Future. Very end Back to the Future and Back to the Future 2. I don't know that as well as I know Snoopy. I'm sorry. By the way, he says, I'm also with you about not buying a car without a steering wheel. If it's mine, I want the option to really drive it. No steering wheel means I'm always a passenger. And this isn't something Americans really look for in an independence device. So says Jeremy. I agree, Jeremy. You know what Americans like too? Having somebody else do something for them. I'm liking the service idea. Just call your car. Don't even call your car. Just, Apple's virtual assistants. Like, did I hear him say he wants to go to the store? They'll have a car waiting. Here's what I was trying to figure out earlier. If there's no steering wheel, what does this thing look like inside? I know we have plenty of time to think about that, but is there any reason we'd all have to face forward? I mean, aside from motion sickness. Yeah, I think I'm ready for the weekend. If you're in the chat room, please stay in the chat room. I will be by momentarily. Lots of stuff. I've been saying lots of things, and I want to react to at least some of it. If you're not in the chat room, we'd love to have you there sometime. Show goes live Monday through Friday, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, other times, other places. Consult your local chronometer. macOS can, and in a few minutes, kick off again on Monday morning. We'll do this Monday afternoon. Have a good weekend. Talk to you soon. Hey, look at that. I started the recording and now I have stopped the recording. It's like a full service over here. Ow. Oh, I put on my glasses. Now you don't know that I'm Mr. Incredible. It's my secret disguise. That'd be funny. Wouldn't that be funny if instead, like, Clark Kent wears the suit and the glasses, right? What if he was like always dressed as Superman? But when he put on the glasses, they're like, Clark, aren't you a little old for cosplay? They might say. That's a great idea. It's just the glasses. And he's like, man, what? I've been like 75 years. I've been looking for a place to change clothes. Is it just the glasses, really? And then when he takes off the glasses, do people think, where did Clark go? That was idiotic. I'm glad I stopped the recording before that part. Haha. Sloth Bear says I'm incredible. Thank you very much. That was back up at the top of the show. Because I'm Mr. Incredible. Pow, pow. Fully redundant with bills. Hey, you can never have too many bills, Bill K. Right, where are we? There's the start of the show. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Matthew. Bye. Like 45 minutes ago. Sorry, man. Although if you're watching this later, hey, good to have you back. Is Snoopy wearing a mask? No, it's a simpler time, Eugene. All the kids are hanging out together. They're going to school. Still can't understand what the teacher's saying. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, John, I think you and I got to the same place. John says he got through 2/3 of the first episode before today's show. Very true to form. Yeah, I mean it's like watching an old Snoopy cartoon. Roger says there was an image of romance tied to flying in World War I. Sure, 100 years ago. And I'm not complaining. I don't want them to update it. I don't want breakdancing Snoopy. I mean, it's fine if they do it. It's okay, whatever. I don't want texting Snoopy. I don't want Snoopy with a Facebook page. You know, and that's the thing. I mean, it was stuff that appealed to us when we were kids. It'll be interesting to see if it appeals to kids still. I assume it will. I don't know. I've got a friend who's got a 3-year-old who's all about Mickey Mouse, which I don't really understand because you have to like, you really have to shove Mickey Mouse in their face for them to be into Mickey Mouse. I mean, he's 3, right? He didn't go any place and like learn about Mickey Mouse himself. That's one that sort of changed all through the years. I don't know. Like now they've actually gone back sort of more retro, which is interesting to me. But like there was, Disco Mickey Mouse. That was an album, which I think you can actually find on Apple Music. It's got the song Macho Duck on it. Snoopy never really seemed to do that. It stayed what it was. Eugene asked if Linus plays GarageBand instead of a piano. Sorry to correct you, my friend. It is Schroeder who plays the piano, and he still does. The piano, not GarageBand. Interesting. I will look for that. Well, John, if you could send me a link to that article, I'd love to read it. Because I haven't seen anything like that in the articles that I read in the tech press. John says a news article that he saw earlier said that the writers got a show Bible meant to keep them in line with the original content. It's an interesting idea. Wow. Really, Nabil? Sorry. Nabil says, I remember you talking about subscription music. I was so against the idea. I love owning my music, but I also have Spotify. Yeah. I don't remember the last album I bought. It might have been a physical copy of Nine Inch Nails' Pretty Hate Machine. Yeah, because it wasn't available on any of the streaming services, and you couldn't even buy it through iTunes. So I think I went to eBay and got a copy of the CD. That can't be the last album I bought, though. Not digital anyway. Last album I bought might have been Comin' and Burn by the Rollins Band, because I lost my CD of that. And at the time, it wasn't available on any streaming services. It was already an old album, but yeah, what a happy, fun guy. Come in and burn and Pretty Hate Machine. You're welcome, planet. Where is my iPhone on the YouTube channel? Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing, Eugene, but yes, it is. I think. Yes. I think. Bill says it's still amazing that there is little to nothing in the non-Apple wearable and tablet market. Except for Fitbit. Allison Sheridan and I were talking about that on, I can't remember which show it was on. It might have actually been on her show, Chit Chat Across the Pond Light, which I did earlier this week. Because I said something about Apple and wearables, and she maintains that there is a pretty strong Fitbit community. There's a lot of loyalty there. Although she sees some of that eroding now that Fitbit is owned by Google. So I don't know. Ha. Bill says, so 15 years ago, who would have thought that we'd be able to watch macOS Can live on our phone? That's funny. Roger's got 4 normal watches that he still wears or would wear if he ever went out. Yeah, my friend John Champion, who is a big fan of Apple stuff, got an early Apple Watch. He actually used to have a Pebble before that. And yeah, he went back to his mechanical watches, but he's a throwback to another time, literally. His favorite restaurant in LA just celebrated its 100th birthday. He wears ascots non-ironically. It sounds like I'm doing a most interesting man in the world that thing, and I'm not. But John's a throwback, and yet he uses an iPad as often as he can instead of a laptop because that's the form factor he prefers. So what does that tell you? That's funny, Nabil. Never gave up wearing a watch, but then again, I'm perpetually terrified of being trapped with no way to tell time. I'm actually serious, he says. Yeah, I'm cool. I'm not saying I'm cool. I mean, like, if I don't know what time it is, whatever. My mom came to visit me one time, um, and we were supposed to go someplace, and my then girlfriend could not take how much my mom and I really just didn't care if we got any place. We didn't care. Like we were supposed to go someplace, and like 4:30 in the afternoon, we were still just sitting around talking because what is time? The one thing that I wish John says he might have chosen a watch for fashion reasons in the past. Now I would just change the band. I really the only complaint that I have about Apple Watch, and I understand they're dealing with limited resources and limited battery and all that stuff. I would like more customization for the face. I would consider buying watch faces from the watch app store if they would, either let me design my own or let other people sell them. What was that? What was that Swiss watch? It wasn't a Swiss watch. It was a Swiss clock that Apple had a design that was very similar on their watch that they then had to pull that design because they were sued because it turns out what they had done was they had stolen somebody else's design for a watch face. Why can't I pay $1.50 for that watch face or $2 or even $5 for that watch face? Because while I like the ones that are on the watch, and part of it is because I've got the Series 3. The Series 5 or the Series 6 have the California face, which I think is actually a beautiful, fashionable face. The rest of them are like, fine. I don't know. I put the Unity face on it this week. I don't like it because I actually like a little bit more intricacy. I like the look of an old-fashioned watch, of an old watch. Yeah, but enough about me. Wow, that's so weird, Nabil. I'm sorry, not I apologize. So Nabil needs to know what time it is, but he does not get nervous at all if he forgets his phone. If I forget my phone, I'm done. The next thing I have to do is go back and get my phone because even though it's a joy to be out of contact sometimes, I can't stand it. People are talking about things they would like to see Apple do. Send me an email. Send me an email because I will forget to come back and check this. Send me an email on the stuff you want to see Apple do. An Apple internet service provider is an interesting idea. Seems like a lot. It seems like a real pain that Apple wouldn't necessarily want to get into. But send me an email because I'll forget that by Monday. Same goes for yeah. Nabil, that was a thing that I always wanted them to do. Once they launched the iPhone, I wanted them to become a mobile virtual network operator. I don't know why they didn't, unless it's just that they don't want to, deal with the headache. There might also be some kind of anti-competitive something or other there as well, though. I don't know. That would be something that they would have been conscious of, maybe. Yeah. Nabil says they did strong arm the carriers into giving fair rates for data, though, which is great, except now data costs just as much as it did for me in 2008, which doesn't really make sense. Yeah, right? Well, not for me, but that's because I have a carrier that charges less. But I get it. Apple won't go to Mars. That's funny. Hmm. Interesting. You've gone deeper than I can really get in that little bit there. Media Cafe Online says Cloudflare and Apple made a new DNS protocol to help with privacy. It's called Oblivious DNS over HTTPS. So Apple is working to enhance privacy of the internet. So ISP future. Interesting. I don't know. Yeah, you guys are having a geekier discussion than I can join you on. The idea of 5G being the way you get your internet is interesting. Can Apple do that though? Because I don't want to pay for 5G for my home internet to a carrier, unless you're just talking about a hotspot and piggybacking on your own 5G. The thing is, being a house full of cord cutters, I mean, we have no like television stuff, and yet at least two people in the house are watching something at any given time. Plus, I'm sitting here talking to you, plus, there's other work being done. I can't even imagine trying to get my internet service from a carrier and not going bankrupt. Not that, not that the cable company is much better, but cool. John says there were no glitches. I'm to the end of the show, by the way. I'm now down to the part, man, alive. Okay, I have not watched. I watched the first season of Westworld and haven't watched the rest, but I do have HBO Max now, so I might go back and watch it. Roger says Westworld, I think season 4 has what autonomous cars might look like. That is one of the many reasons I would like to go back and watch that show. Deborah says driving a car is fun. Taking a ride to nowhere has kept me sane in the usual time, or in the unusual time, excuse me. I am going to need a steering wheel. I kind of miss. I I love living in New England, but I was in my 20s and I had time and I had a car. Um, I love living in New England because you could end up in a completely different city in like 25 minutes. I haven't really. I enjoy a cross country road trip, but I'm always going someplace. Just getting in the car and driving is not something I've enjoyed for a number of years. Don't know why. Redneck Tech called me an old man. Well, I'm going to call you a redneck. Mostly because it's in the name that you chose for yourself. Snoopy did his writing on a mechanical typewriter. Snoopy still does his writing on a mechanical typewriter. See, and then to get his book published, self-published. So that's modern. To get his book published, all the little Woodstock birds, Woodstock and his friends, took the pages and ran them through a printing press that they had right there. That show is kicking it old school. Roger wonders if Snoopy is really appealing to the nostalgia for the parents who then make it the show they park their younger kids in front of. Maybe. That's possible, although it still has to be good to entertain the kids, right? That's the question. Why do I keep taking my glasses off? I can't read. Yeah, Schroeder versus Linus. Yeah, it has been a few years. That's fine. Don't be embarrassed, Eugene. It gave me a chance to feel superior. Redneck Tech says, and there's something to be said for if it ain't broke, don't fix it. As far as Snoopy is concerned, yeah, agreed. Yeah, YouTube is your friend for that. Paul, Starfleet Universe on Call says the scary thing about digital music, streaming or not, is that if nobody has licensed it, it'll just be as if it never existed. Somehow on YouTube a couple of years ago, I came across a clip of Jerry Reed doing a song called I don't know about you, I think it is. And the thing is, it was not like an official video or anything like that. It was a clip from like some old Nashville television show. Wasn't Hee Haw, but it was him doing a live performance of it. And I went immediately because it was an amazing song. I went immediately to all the different places where you might be able to find it as far as a digital download or streaming or something like that, and couldn't find it anywhere. But then I looked again on YouTube, and somebody had ripped their CD of it and put it up as a song on YouTube. There is also, and this one's harder to find, but it's weird. Basically, if you've heard of the song, probably you can find it online. My uncle, my great uncle actually, had a 78 RPM record player. And there was he had a thing from 1917, a record from 1917 or 1918 called "When Aunt Dinah's Daughter Hannah Bangs on That Piano." I played that thing over and over again because there was just something fantastic about it. It was like living in a living in like an R gang or a Little Rascals serial. And I found it online. It's not available. You can't listen to it on Apple Music. I doubt you can listen to it on Spotify. Somebody just recorded it. I can't remember if it's on YouTube or where it is, but you can find it online. And that sounds so like stupid. Like, oh, it's probably out there somewhere, but it's probably out there somewhere. You're right. You won't be able to get it legitimately if nobody's licensed it, but find so much stuff I never expect to find on YouTube. It's kind of weird. Yes. David says the watch face that I was talking about in Switzerland was for the trains. Yeah, that's the one. All right. Yeah, Woodstock made it through the press. One of them did. It's weird that you can't tell Woodstock from the rest of them because one of them is Woodstock, and we learned that in the How Snoopy Met Woodstock episode today. Right. That gets us to the end of the chat, it looks like. And since I did record today's show, I'm going to turn it around and make it available as an audio podcast to everybody else. Thank you guys for spending another, I know it was a short week because of the whole Monday thing, but thank you guys for spending another week with me and for being here every day or the days that you are. Um, I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful weekend. And yeah, let's do it again Monday. Take care.